Ah, shit. Get your tea and your popcorn because this is another good one. So, apparently, horseback riding is fat phobic. So, I talk a lot on this channel about the beluga mindset, and I talk about how people will try to pressure others to accommodate them when in reality, they are the ones that are being unhealthy. But let's get into the video.
Stigma and fat phobia in Let's talk about weight stigma and fat phobia in horseback riding.
My name's Alyssa, and I'm an Orthodox Jewish plus-size friend in binge eating disorder recovery.
As a girl from Kentucky, I have always loved horses. I love trail riding. I used to horseback ride at camp. And while I was never this plus size necessarily my whole life, my weight did fluctuate as a kid, and no one ever gave me a hard time about my weight and getting on a horse, regardless of how fat or skinny I was. But throughout my adult life, in more recent years, I've encountered several situations where I would not be allowed to ride a horse because of my weight. So last summer, I was looking at different ranches out in Montana and the Dakotas, and under like the horseback riding FAQ, it said weight capacity for horseback riding, either 200 or 250 pounds. It varied. Now, I don't know how they check that when you get there. I don't know if they're going to like look at you and say, you look like you weigh more than 250 pounds. Get on a scale, fatso. I don't know what they're going to do. I think the whole situation is like a little weird, but I was not about to book an entire trip out west to be denied on the spot, like the one thing I really wanted to do there. I'm not entirely sure why the weight capacity is 250 pounds. I thought most horses were like these load bearing work animals that like help farmers pull things, at least in the olden days. I don't know like why the horses of today are so weak, or I don't know.
Okay, I just had to stop it right there. I just couldn't stop myself from laughing. So she says that the weight capacity is 250 pounds. So she is above 250 pounds. And she says that she doesn't know how they judge that. Well, you're supposed to make sure that you know your weight before you go to the ranch, first of all, because I grew up doing horseback riding myself. I've done it before multiple times. And also, if you're over 250 pounds and you go to the ranch and get on the horse's back, the horse will literally either its back will break or the horse will buck you off of it. Like horses will literally try to kick you off of them. So that's how they know that you're too big for the horse. And also, if you are above 250 pounds and you think it's rude that a rancher has a weight capacity for their horses, if I owned a ranch and I make the rules and I say you can't get on my horses that I paid for if you're over 250 pounds, then those are the rules. You don't get to tell me that I need to change the rules of my ranch and risk these horses breaking their backs because you're so fat that you're literally going to kill the horses. No, that is a liability. Your weight is actually a liability for my business. So, yes, of course, the ranchers are going to put a weight capacity on their horses because horses are actual living beings and they're actual animals. And then she's like, oh, I thought that horses can work and like pull heavy loads. Just because you can pull a heavy load does not mean you can carry that heavy load on your back. Those are two different things. Like riding in a carriage, you know how horses like carry something in a carriage? Yeah, that's because there's usually more than one horse or it has a whole support system. So if you want to ride a carriage, maybe that would be a better option. Maybe you can just go do a carriage ride instead of actually getting on the horse and risking breaking its bones with your inner thighs.
Why the industry is so against fat people getting on their horses and denying them that joy. So the reason I'm making this video.
And then she says that the industry is against fat people getting on horses and they are denying you joy. So now the entire horsing industry owes you access to their ranches. So forget the fact that they own the business, forget the fact that they bought the horses, that they bought the ranch, that is their land and their property. Oh no, forget all of that. If they don't allow a 300-pound woman to get on a horse, then they are now fat phobic and they're denying you joy. So, do you see what I mean when I talk about this external locus of control? Women who have inferiority complexes about their weight, oftentimes it's based on this external locus of control. They expect the entire world to accommodate them. They want you to change your business structure. They want you to take on the liability of her literally killing your horses with her inner thighs. They want you to take on that liability. And it's because they're looking externally for their life to be satisfactory. Do you hear how she said you're taking away my joy, basically, if you don't let me ride horses? Well, if it's so joyful, then you should have no problem losing the weight so that you can be less than 250 pounds so that you can ride the horse. If it's that joyful, you should have no problem going on a diet so that you can one day ride horses again.
Video is because today at my daughter's day camp, they had pony rides. And I don't really like pony rides for like animal rights reasons, like horses walking in a circle.
Wait, so she just said that she does not support pony rides because it's horses walking in a circle for no reason. When you're on a ranch going horseback riding, the horses are walking around in a circle because they have a trail that goes with the ranch. The trail is literally in a circle. You go out of the stable when you're on the horse, and then you go on the trail, and then you go back. So it's literally no different than riding adult horses. The only difference is that the circle is bigger when the horses are adults. So do you hear her contradicting her own talking point? So now suddenly she's an animal rights activist. And now she's like, oh, I don't support animals walking in a circle. Okay, well, sis, when you're going horseback riding, the trail is in a circle. It's just a bigger circle than when it's with a pony.
I guess there ended up being some miscommunication between the pony ride people and the camp, and some of the older girls who were a little bit taller were told that they couldn't get on the pony. My daughter was told that she was too tall, and then her friend was told by the pony guy that she was big. And my daughter said that the guy said that to another friend too. I don't know the name of the company.
Okay, so now we are banned from using words like tall and big. So now you're not even allowed to describe. You cannot use the adjectives in the English language to describe how a person looks, because now apparently that's fatphobic as well. So you're no longer allowed to use the word big. You cannot use the word tall. And also, when it comes to this insecurity about being tall, I've only noticed tall women being insecure when they're fat. I have never heard of a tall, skinny woman who looks like a model being insecure about being tall. Not as much as women who are big and fat. So that's another thing. It's like now we can't even call people tall. I'm tall. I love being tall. I love being tall and slim, though.
So I'm not going to say it here, but I had to do a lot of building up in carpool on the way home from camp. And I'm glad that I was the one that was able to like receive the kids after this event. I sort of get a weight limit with ponies, like they're smaller, they're babies, it's different, but like big horses, I don't really understand. Remember when
if a small horse has a weight capacity, why would a big horse not have a weight capacity? So you're telling me that because a horse is an adult, suddenly they can pull airplanes, suddenly they can pull entire school buses? No, horses have limits just like how ponies have limits. So basically, she thinks that the horse should be able to carry her 300-pound body, and like horses shouldn't have any limits. They should be able to carry heavy loads. But at the same time, she's against animal abuse, and she doesn't like how ponies have to walk in circles. But she wants to be able to get on the back of a horse and ride in a circle on a ranch.
When Remy Bader had that whole issue where she went out west on a brand trip and they wouldn't let her get on the horse? Like what? TLDR, unfortunately, I find horseback riding to not be a size inclusive sport and activity, and I find that very disappointing.
So then she says that it's not a size inclusive sport. People do not owe you inclusivity. And I mean, this is a channel full of women of color. So we know this as women of color. Guess what? Other people have excluded us from certain things. So isn't it interesting how when the shoe is on the other foot, now you're being excluded because of your weight, then it's a problem. Meanwhile, you don't even own the businesses, and you think that people should take on the liability of literally having their horses' backs broken. So literally when you sit on the horse, you could snap the horse in half right there. And you don't care about that. And that's a liability that the ranch should have to deal with because, you just want to get up on a horse and you're 300 pounds. Oh my God, look at these comments. Somebody says, or lose weight. Why should a horse suffer because you can't stop eating? Forget about the man or bear debate. I'd rather the horse versus fat people debate, and I'd take the horse. Well, yeah, like it's not other people's fault that she can't stop eating. This person says, in truck terms, half a ton trucks can pull 9 tons. But if you put 9 tons in the bed, you would destroy the suspension. Exactly. Being pulled in a carriage, that's why I said she needs to go on a carriage ride because she's so big. She needs to have the horse like pulling the thing. Maybe she'll have a couple horses and she can sit in the carriage as opposed to getting on its back and sitting directly on the horse's skeletal structure. Somebody says many ranches do not have the funds or resources to have horses large enough to accommodate all body sizes. Draft horses need specialized hoof care, more feed and hay, customized hay stack, etc. Yeah, so why should people who own ranches have to now invest in gigantic horses and they have to invest in all the hay when they don't have the money? So you're telling me that people who own ranches should have to take out loans so that they can pay to feed giant horses because a 300-pound woman wants to come to a ranch once a year? No. Anyway, what do you ladies think? Let me know in the comment section and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.